Hi friends, good morning. Happy Memorial Day. Hopefully everyone's out in the sun having fun, and then maybe later tonight you can watch this and cool down because I'm going to read a book about something we're going to work on this week. It happens to be a hermit crab. Maybe that gives you a hint. All right, I'm going to read A House for Hermit Crab by Eric Carle. And then stick around because I'm going to show you a really quick craft. Hopefully you have all the supplies. It should be really easy, but really fun too. Okay, so I'm going to get started. A House for Hermit Crab by Eric Carle. He is the author and illustrator. That means he wrote the words and made the pictures. So they're really cool. So, A House for Hermit Crab by Eric Carle. That first page. "Time to move," said Hermit Crab one day in January. "I've grown too big for this little shell." He had felt safe and snug in his shell, but now it was too snug. Hermit Crab stepped out of the shell and onto the floor of the ocean. But it was frightening out in the open sea without a shell to hide in. "What if a big fish comes along and attacks me?" he thought. "I must find a new house soon." Early in February, Hermit Crab found just the house he was looking for. It was a big shell and strong. He moved right in, wiggling and waggling about inside to see how it felt. It felt just right, but it looked so, well, plain, thought Hermit Crab. In March, Hermit Crab met some sea anemones. They swayed gently back and forth in the water. "How beautiful you are," said Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to come and live on my house? It is so plain it needs you." "I'll come," whispered a small sea anemone. Gently, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and put it on his shell. In April, Hermit Crab passed a flock of starfish moving slowly along the sea floor. "How handsome you are," said the Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to decorate my house?" "I would," signaled a little sea star. Carefully, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and put it on his house. In May, Hermit Crab discovered some coral. They were hard and didn't move. "How pretty you are," said Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to help make my house more beautiful?" "I would," creaked a crusty coral. Gingerly, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it on his shell. Notice that he goes by each month. He finds something different. So, in June, Hermit Crab came to a group of snails crawling over a rock on the ocean floor. They gazed as they went, picking up algae and bits of debris, and leaving a neat path behind them. "How tidy and hard-working you are," said Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to come and help clean my house?" "I would," offered one of the snails. Happily, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it on his shell. Look at all of these things getting on his shell. Keep these in mind for our craft. In July, Hermit Crab came upon several sea urchins. They had sharp, prickly needles. "How fierce you look," said Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to protect my house?" "I would," answered a spiky sea urchin. Gratefully, Hermit Crab picked it up with his claw and placed it near his shell. In August, Hermit Crab and his friends wandered into a forest of seaweed. "Ooh, it's so dark in here," thought Hermit Crab. "How dim it is," murmured the sea anemone. "How gloomy it is," whispered the starfish. "How murky it is," complained the coral. "I can't see," said the snail. "It's like nighttime," cried the sea urchin. Ooh. In September, Hermit Crab spotted a school of lanternfish darting through the dark water. "How bright you are," said Hermit Crab. "Would one of you be willing to light up our house?" "I would," replied one lanternfish, and it swam over near the shell. In October, Hermit Crab approached a pile of smooth pebbles. "How sturdy you are," said Hermit Crab. "Would you mind if I rearranged you?" "Not at all," answered the pebbles. Hermit Crab picked them up one by one with his claw and built a wall around his shell. "Now my house is perfect," cheered Hermit Crab. But in November, Hermit Crab felt that his shell seemed a bit too small. Little by little, over the year, Hermit Crab had grown. Soon he would have to find another, bigger home. But he had come to love his friends, the sea anemone, the starfish, the coral, the sea urchin, the snail, the lanternfish, and even the smooth pebbles. "They have been so good to me," thought Hermit Crab. "They are like a family. How can I ever leave them?" In December, a smaller hermit crab passed by. "I have outgrown my shell," she said. "Would you know of a place for me?" "I have outgrown my house too," answered Hermit Crab. "I must move on. You are welcome to live here, but you must promise to be good to my friends." "I promise," said the little crab. The following January, Hermit Crab stepped out and the little crab moved in. "Couldn't stay in that little shell forever," said Hermit Crab as he waved goodbye. The ocean floor looked wider than he had remembered, but Hermit Crab wasn't afraid. Soon he spied the perfect house, a big empty shell. It looked, well, a little plain, but sponges, he thought, barnacles, clownfish, sand dollars, electric eels. Oh, there are so many possibilities. I can't wait to get started. And that's the end of our book. So, again, this was A House for Hermit Crab by Eric Carle. And if you would like to find it or buy it yourself, in the back there are some information about some other animals that we read about. So that might be kind of cool if you really like some sea animals. Also, the pictures are really cool in this book. So, real quick before I say goodbye, I'm going to show you a real quick art project. And I don't know if anyone has ever done this, but it's called a wax resist. And what we're going to do first is you're going to draw a hermit crab on a white piece of paper. You're going to need one white piece of paper, probably construction paper. It'll be a little bit thicker that way. You can have a choice. You can just have one crayon, and it can be a white crayon, or you can have all of the crayons. I have all of them and a white crayon. And then you can have watercolor paints. If you don't have them, that's okay, because I'll show you another trick to use if you don't have them, because I had to borrow these from school. You'll need a paintbrush, and then you'll need some water. So, like I said, you're going to draw a hermit crab on your paper. Okay. I already drew mine. And if you can see, I drew my hermit crab in red crayon and his shell in white, because it's going to be something really cool later. It's going to be a mystery. Okay? And then let's try and think of some of the things we saw on hermit crab's shell. And I want you to try and remember what you saw and what you heard and draw that on your hermit crab's shell. So I'm going to pull up a page of all of our things again, just so you can remember. Here's some things that were on our hermit crab shell. I don't know if I'll draw all of them, but I think I'm gonna make a starfish. So I'm going to take my crayon and I'm going to draw a beautiful starfish on my hermit crab, right on his shell. And if you don't want to put it on his shell, that's okay. You can put it right beside his shell, wherever you want, because it's your project. It's your piece of art. I'm going to also put on some coral. I think the coral looks pretty cool. So I'm just gonna have fun and color. It's okay if it doesn't look exactly like the pictures in the book, because that's the beauty of making it yourself. You don't want to copy the book. We're just using it for a reference. We'll use that word. All right, there's some coral. And now I think I'm just going to put some rocks at the bottom. Or just kidding, I'm going to put that really cool lanternfish, because he's really cool and I like the color of him. So here's a lanternfish. And if you would like to color them in, you're more than welcome. But if you don't want to color them in and you just want to draw them and outline your animals, that's okay, because it is actually going to turn out really cool if you do that too. Alrighty. So I'm not going to color in my big lanternfish, but I am going to give him an eyeball so he can see. And I'm going to take my white crayon and I'm going to draw some things on my lanternfish and on my hermit crab. I wonder what's going to happen. You're probably thinking, Miss Justine, you're crazy. Why would you write with a white crayon? Nothing will show up that way. Well, call me crazy. Alrighty. Okay, so I have my picture here. And you can draw as many things as you want. And then after I draw my picture, I'm going to take my watercolors. And you want to dip your paintbrush in your water. Okay, and then you're going to pick a color that you would like to use. I think I'm going to use the purple first because I like purple. So you just put your paintbrush in your watercolor a little bit. You don't want to make it too wet because then it gets a little messy. You just want enough to get on your paintbrush. See, like that? And if you do need some more water, just dip it in there and then put it back in your watercolor. And then you're going to take your picture, and you don't have to be super clean. You don't have to stay in the lines. You do whatever you want to do. I think I'm going to get a little crazy here. Just like that. And see where my white crayon markings were? You couldn't see them before because the white crayon was on the white paper. But when I paint over them, the paint doesn't stick to the crayon because it's wax, and wax resists water. Or the other way around, something like that. But now you can see where my white crayon is, and it's really cool. It's like a mystery. It's a surprise. So I'm going to paint that. Okay, and you can do as many colors as you want. The cool thing about watercolors is they look really, really pretty when you mix them together. Right? Ooh. And then if you need to, you can put more water on there, and that will mix them around too. Okay, just like that. Very pretty. All right, and then I'll show you another trick. So if you don't have watercolors at your house like me, that's okay. There is another way. If you have washable markers, right here I have a Crayola washable marker. I also have the, I think it's the Crazy Art washable marker. Regardless, as long as it's a washable marker, it'll work. Take your washable marker, my green, and color just a little bit on your paper. So I'm going to color some of my hermit crab shell, and you'll see that your marker does not go over top of your crayon also. But if you just put a few lines of marker on your paper, this one's dying a little bit. Uh-oh. Try this one. Just a couple, maybe just outline some things or scribble in there just a little bit. I made a couple lines like this. You're going to take your paintbrush with some water on it, and you're going to go over those lines of marker, and it will pull some of that ink and it'll spread it around almost like a watercolor. You might need a little more water than you would think, but almost scrub it around. Okay. Just like that. And the more water you put, the more it'll blend. But that's an easy alternative if you don't have watercolors. If you do have watercolors, I suggest the watercolors just because I really like to paint. But like I said, you use whatever you have, even moms and dads and grandmas and paps. If you don't have markers or paints, sometimes you can even dilute food coloring and kind of make your own paints. That works too. There's some other ways, you know, depending on what you have at home. But just go ahead and have fun with it and make a little bit of a mess, see what happens. And then when you're all done, don't forget your name. Okay? So go ahead and you're going to color that whole picture. And then if you make one of these, take a picture, or next time we have our Zoom, bring it with you and show us what you made. Okay? Again, this is a hint for what we're going to do this week. So maybe tomorrow you can think about it and tell us what you think we're going to do this week. Okay? I'll let you guys go. You guys all enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining me.